climate crisis, a man-made problem with a feminist solution. So how does that make you feel? The guys are looking a little bit defensive. The women, it's a bit more mixed. Some of you are looking really interested. Some of you might be wondering if I have hairy armpits under this shirt. It's a polarizing statement, right? The title comes from Mary Robinson, and I was 7 when she became the first female president of Ireland. She then went on to become UN High Commissioner for Human Rights. And in her book, Climate Justice, A Man-Made Problem with a Feminist Solution, she explains that there are so many problems with the climate crisis. The ice caps are melting, polar bears are becoming extinct. But in the poorest countries today, people are dying. And in those countries, women are 14 times more likely to die than men. But I'm going to explain to you today that the climate crisis isn't the problem. It's the symptom. It's the symptom of an economic system that has been built by a few to extract every precious value out of this planet and its people. And I'm going to come and explain to you why I care about this so much. So in April of this year, my mom had a stroke. And as I traveled with her in the ambulance and I saw her brain shut down in front of my eyes and her morph into an infant in an adult's body, I was aware she could be dying. And as we arrived at the hospital and have one of the best free healthcare systems here in the UK, I was able to put her care in their safe hands. And I made the decision to sit beside my mom and make her feel loved. So I decided I would tell her all the things she always wanted to know that I never usually share with her. And so in between her failing all the tests by the doctors, like knowing where her nose was or being able to point at it, I started showing her pictures of the cute guy I'd just been on a date with. And it was in those moments I knew she understood me. And the doctors agreed. So the scan showed that it was the left side of her brain that had been damaged. This was the analytical and logical side, and that she would be living in the right side of her brain, the creative, intuitive, feeling side. As a family, we started researching everything we could, everything the doctors recommended, including a book called My Stroke of Insight, a brain scientist's personal journey by Dr. Jill Bolt-Taylor. In this book, she says most of us feel divided in life because we have these two separate brains. So the left side is the work side when you're in your head. The right side is when you're in your heart, when you're on vacation. The left side is when you're thinking of yourself, when you're just thinking of the me. The right side is when you're thinking of the we, when you're thinking of everyone. And I quote Dr. Taylor when I say the left side is the masculine side and the right side is the feminine. So the left side is the yin, the left side is the yang, the right side is the yin. And so yin and yang, we all know the symbol of balance. It means opposing and connecting energies that every single person holds. What it's not about is gender. The white is the masculine energy. It's driven, it's fast-paced, it's high energy, and at its extreme, it's death. The black is the feminine energy. It's calm, it's creative, it's nurturing, and at its extreme, it's birth. This ancient wisdom is the basis of Eastern culture. And when I lived in China, it was also embedded in business. So if you worked in marketing like me and had to be logical and as well as creative, the teams would have a nap at lunchtime, every single lunchtime. And the guys in the team would explain to me that they would have to have that nap at lunchtime. In fact, their creativity depended on it. Having that nap is tapping in to the calmness, the femininity, the right brain. Having a nap in work in the UK is unheard of. In fact, I found out this year I found out we have what's called a Peter problem here in the UK. That we have more CEOs named Peter than female CEOs. Are you as shocked by that as I was? It's out of balance and it isn't working. And loads of great work is happening behind the scenes to address it. We need more women in the economy because, as I mentioned earlier, and I repeat, the climate crisis is not the problem. It is the symptom of an economic system that has been built by a few to extract every precious value out of this planet and its people. So I didn't come to sustainability as a climate activist or as a scientist. I came to it as a greenwasher. There's lots of jargon banded around, like this term greenwashing, which basically means vague or misleading information about environmental or social practices. So what is the root of greenwashing? As I was one, I'm going to give you my view on how it began. So Sigmund Freud, yes, Freud, the father of psychology, was with his family explaining his new theory that people subconsciously either move towards pleasure or away from pain. And his nephew, Edward Bernays, worked in marketing and had the eureka moment that he could get people, that he could use this knowledge to get people to buy more stuff. And this was one of his first PR successes. In 1929, convincing women to smoke. He renamed cigarettes torches of freedom. And then he played very, very clearly on women's insecurities of becoming fat and unattractive. We see how this still cascades to fashion and beauty today. A huge part of these sectors is built on making women feel rubbish in order to get them to buy more products. And for me, after 10 years of presenting PR strategies to mainly white men on why women were buying lipstick, I'd had enough. And I ended up going back to study sustainability at Goldsmiths. And this is what I learned. Sustainability is more than just the climate crisis, right? The actual definition is meeting the needs of the present without compromising future generations to meet their own needs. So what does that actually mean? It means thinking of ourselves and then thinking of our children as well. And whether you have children or not, women, you're really, really good at that. There are 3 pillars to sustainability. The first is the environment, the one we all think of. The second is the societal pillar, which includes Black Lives Matter, gender equality, the mental health pandemic we find ourselves in. But it was the third pillar, was the pillar that was news to me, and that is the economy. One of the gifts that COVID has given us is that we've realized how much we actually rely on the economy. So we used to have this fight, climate change activists versus big bad business. Businesses, maybe they might support the climate really at the detriment of their P&L, this kind of philanthropic work that they would do. But COVID has shown us that we completely depend on the economy. What was it like when our shops were closed, when we couldn't go to work? We need work for our mental health. Work gives us purpose. No one really wants to be furloughed. Society and the economy are completely interdependent. And then if we don't have the planet, we don't have either. Maybe the planet will be just fine. It's just whether we'll survive. So, at the moment, it looks like this, right? We're out of balance. And a lot of people try and blame capitalism as the problem. And whether that's true or not, we have to adapt the system as it's not working. We have been working in the masculine side of our brain, thinking of ourselves and putting profit above all else, instead of taking into account the feminine, the nurturing side of our brain. The climate crisis is not the problem. It is the symptom of an economic system that has been built for a few to extract every precious value out of Mother Earth and her people. Business has only been serving the few and the privileged. And if you follow the money, you follow the power. And most of the time, it's pale, it's male, it's stale, and it needs to change. So, Is the climate crisis a man-made problem with a feminist solution? I'm really not so sure. This title jars with me. We're lumping all the men together and all the women together, and that's not how humans operate. We are far more blended, varied, fluid if the systems allow us to be. No man, no woman, no human on this planet is solely responsible for the world being as ill as it is, but all of us sitting here today are responsible for its recovery. So what are the solutions? The masculine and feminine are out of balance, right? We know this. It's not about gender, it's not about blame. One is not better than the other. We all need to balance our energies, and we need to do this every day. Here in the West, we have been tricked into believing that the masculine, the yang, the left side of the brain is the key to success. And it's a lie. It's actually the route to our extinction. When we take the time to meditate, when we take the time to spend time in nature and tap into that right brain, we realize what's really important. Women have been encouraged to reclaim traits that have been coded as masculine: ambition, confidence, authority. But we need men to be even more courageous now and reclaim feminine traits of feeling, empathy, communication. And secondly, we need an economy that isn't putting profit above people and planet. And gender equality plays a huge part in that. Women, we need you to lean into the economy. You need to set up that business. You need to get over your fears and your imposter syndrome. We need more women sitting at the table. Men, become aware of your privilege. Notice your unconscious bias and lift women into these roles. And finally, here's what I know for sure, is that when my mum was ill, I really didn't care about work. I rushed to her bedside and I did everything I could to get her well. And she gets stronger every single day. Gaia, our Mother Earth, is really, really ill. And we all need to rush to her bedside. So do whatever calls you, you make the decision, you take the action. But our Mother Earth depends on it. Thank you.